Hi. I just recorded all of this and the video did not come out, so the rest of this from here on out is going to be voiceover. Okay. Hi. I have been putting this off, planning on doing some big, long, sit down compilation of every bit of information I could possibly pull into one video, and I realized that may not be necessary, at least immediately, in order to give some sort of explanation as to what the fuck. So, without getting a ring light and writing a formal script, the very surface level rundown is as follows. It is very public information already that who on all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, everything else, has acted as a sort of lifeline for me when I was in a really, really bad relationship with somebody who hurt me a lot and hurt my son a lot and stalked me a lot. He went out of his way, very, very out of his way, to stalk me and harass me in all sorts of ways. Virtual stalking, catfishing my landlord, false CPS and police reports, posing as me on the internet, sending mail to my house, sending people to my house, you name it, he did it. This platform and the community I found from it back when I was just doing nothing but shit posting on here served as a way to amplify the voices telling me that what was happening was so extremely not okay and that it is well worth taking the chance and getting as far away from the guy as possible. And I did. After years of abuse and harassment from him, raising my son by myself while still enduring his abuse, I did that. I moved far, far away. I cut all contact, got a job, got a home. I really did do that. I got this very much an eyesore of a tattoo about surviving the situation to, in my words at the time, act as a beacon that other current survivors could speak to me safely. Visually, it's very off-putting, but it's meaningful nonetheless. The other tattoo I have from the situation is the one on my neck, which was so lovingly forced upon me by the people that my abuser tipped about me so that I would get kidnapped and trafficked because I broke up with him. Fun. We all make mistakes, right? Totally human accident to make. Understandable. Now, I'm not under the impression that I'm attracting a lot of new people here, so you probably already know the story. I got out. I started reliably building my life away from the dude. I got everything taken care of. My son was doing fantastic. I built a community for the both of us. Things were really looking up. I was making progress quite quickly. And then, when I finally felt secure enough to file for a restraining order, there was my abuser to swoop in and file for custody of my child. Full custody, no visitation, because he's a dedicated father whose baby boy has been forced away from him wrongfully. Allegedly. Never mind the fact that he refused to be put on the birth certificate up until now. If you really want a step-by-step, I am more than prepared to really do a formal sit-down video with a slideshow and go through the timeline of events, which is information that's already out there in non-chronological pieces, but I can do a more formal explanation if it's so requested of me. But some of the key points of what happened from there is the following. I disclosed my address to the court. Suddenly I'm getting harassed. Roommates are getting stalked, landlord's getting cyber stalked, I'm getting random mail and packages to my home. This is not good. This is very obviously exhibiting the pattern that showed itself every time in the past when I tried to escape my ex's abuse. I would try to set up in a new place very quietly, very discreetly. He would make back-to-back false CPS and police reports so that they would quote-unquote check on me. Eventually, he would confirm my address from these reports, and then he would come stalking, and then would come the mail, and then if I didn't respond to his weird attempts of reaching out to me, I'm getting knocks on the door in the middle of the night, and then twice successfully, the next step in this pattern was abduction. It was all happening over again in its usual order, and because my restraining order was dismissed because it interfered with the paternity case, and the assigned judge, not a joke, said I'm fragile when he found out I had been trafficked by this dude previously. Let me be very clear, I often speak hyperbolically about things. This is not one of those times. I am not editorializing.
The interaction, very seriously, was him cutting me off mid-sentence to say, "Wait, you've been trafficked?" "Yes, I have." "Oh, so you're fragile," and immediately made the call to dismiss this restraining order. It was absolutely wild. Shout out to Judge Stephen M. Falgren of the Duval County 4th Judicial Circuit Court. According to my then attorney, the only judge overseeing domestic violence cases in Duval County, Florida at that time. Best interest of justice these judges at the Duval County Courthouse in Jacksonville, Florida are. Additional shout out to my then attorney Heather Lee Meyer of Sunshine Law Group LLC in Jacksonville, Florida, who told me that I did not need to submit any evidence and that she would not file any evidence because all I needed was a testimony to 100% get this restraining order. I didn't get it. This meant that there was nobody stopping my abuser from trying to reach out to me or my roommates or send mail to me. So as soon as I saw the pattern, I took it very seriously this time and I up and started renting a secondary residence. By this point, my then partner had already been very involved with the life of my son and I on a daily basis. That's news to you. I kept that private on my public profiles for, I think, obvious reasons. But we were unofficially staying together part-time, and he was also not playing around with our safety either. So we joined finances, got a secondary residence together until we could officially get legal protection, and so this whole thing would just be over. We could go back to living our life in the home that we really liked. We stayed close by. We weren't about to uproot our entire life that we had been building, so while we left the physical house, we stayed in the area so that we could continue taking our son to the same healthcare providers and play groups, and he could continue to see the extended family and just generally maintain the flow of daily life. We still went home sometimes, but we were way too afraid to sleep in that place with that person knowing where we lay our heads at night. We're married now, by the way. Congratulations to me. I need to wrap this up way faster before it does become a detailed timeline. We got stalked at our home. We tried getting another restraining order from our home county where the harassment was now happening. The judge insinuated that we had a very strong case, but that because there was an open case in Florida involving the child, it would need to first go to a UCCJEA conference meeting. Fine, right? Except for the fact that nobody from Florida was able to reliably show up at the same time to this UCCJEA conference several times in a row for inexplicable reasons. Nobody was getting properly notified, I guess. That is how the story goes. I believe it was scheduled, I think, at least 4 times before defaulting to Florida because Florida already had an open case and nobody would show up for the conference. Also around this time is when communication between the courthouse, my lawyer, and I was suddenly near non-existent. I was sending emails and receiving nothing back. I was finding out about things very, very last minute, day before. I was getting minimal information and clarification on anything. And then my then lawyer, Heather Lee Meyer, sent me an email, which I don't think she understood at the time of sending it, included the entire thread of her having a very personal conversation with another lawyer in the area about how stupid and annoying this case was, and aren't you excited to be out of it soon? And this email was immediately followed up by another email from my lawyer saying, "Hey, by the way, tomorrow morning at the hearing, I'm going to be withdrawing from your case. Okay, bye." Again, Heather Lee Meyer, Sunshine Law Group, LLC, Jacksonville, Florida. Professional and neutral practice in the best interest of justice at all times. Very ethical, very ethical. Right before the next hearing, I suddenly have no lawyer. At this point, my now husband, my at that time husband, the person who had been the present and acting father figure for most of my son's life, is not allowed to enter the public hearing to testify, but my abuser's parents, with whom he lives as a dependent, are, for some reason. From here, it all starts going exactly the way you think it would go, with one person having, for some reason, 2 attorneys, and the other person having no attorney. Nothing I said was acknowledged or even recorded. I showed up with facts, I showed up with documents, I showed up with a reasonable request for my son's safety. None of it was deemed credible because I'm not barred in Florida and nobody barred in Florida was there to vouch for me, which I guess, justified not even acknowledging anything I said on an order. My objections to the abuser's blatant lies and the blatant malpractice of the judge of the court, of course, not any of it was mentioned on the final order. What was the final order? Well, it was that, without any investigation of my abuser, no reunification process, no supervised visitation, my abuser was to visit my child for 4 hours every single week on the other side of the country. When I vouched for a long-distance time-sharing plan because my son and I were very lawful residents of Washington State, and this was in Florida. Also, my son's health insurance was only valid within the state of Washington, and he's going to be with me most of the time. I was told that if I didn't show up in Florida every week for 4 hours, the police would be sent to my home to take my child away from me permanently. Oh, it's also wrong to say that they denied my request for supervised visitation because after my list of reasonable requests for the court to ensure the safety and well-being of my child, the thing I kind of thought was their job, the judge said that, okay, I guess visitation can be supervised by the abuser's mom, the mom with whom he lives as a dependent because he does not have a job, the mom who was just allowed to show up in the hearing to testify for a full 5 minutes that her baby boy was a perfect father and I was a crazy, raging, abusive bitch, and also chat about her job at the grocery store and establish very, very explicitly that there was a very personal relationship between herself and the judge. The mom who last time she physically saw me with my child screamed in his face that it wasn't her son's child and then tried to physically yank my newborn son out of my arms while screaming, my baby now, my baby now. You say it's his baby now, so he's my baby now, my baby now, my baby now. And then she walked outside to absolutely shriek at the sky, God, where are you? Again, I'm not even being hyperbolic or skipping details here. That is very literally the order of events. I did, at that time, against my usual morals, I did call the cops, which seemed like a reasonable thing to do at that point. So there is very much a report about that event in particular. There are also very much documented photographs of the nail marks on my baby from her trying to rip him from me. So thankfully my request for a neutral CPS-appointed third party to oversee visitation was fulfilled by the choice of this woman. So shout out to Judge James E. Callaher, that's K-A-L-L-A-H-E-R, of the Duval County 4th Judicial Circuit Court for making these decisions. It was an honor to be present in a hearing where he at first acknowledged that long-distance time-sharing was the only viable option, and then when I questioned why the UCCJA conference went the way it did, he ignored that and immediately responded instead with enforcing a weekly time-sharing plan that was not viable for long distance. Again, best interest of justice, these judges at the Duval County Courthouse in Jacksonville, Florida. So, we spent the month trying to figure out how to set up my husband and I, trying to figure out how to set up a third residence in Florida so that we can abide by this time-sharing plan. Temporary residence, but we couldn't. We obviously couldn't afford to uproot our life again and fly back and forth between my son's healthcare providers in Florida every single week. By the way, abuser coming to Washington for visitation, not allowed, not an option. So that's simply not possible. It was not an option we had, much like most people who don't have the money to travel 5,000 miles round trip on a weekly basis as a bare minimum. But we tried to stay for as long as we could. We made it to Florida. We dropped him off for his first day of time sharing. Then was told to come pick him up at their house. The exact quotes were, come as fast as you can and come get him sooner rather than later. When we got there to pick him up, my abuser's mother, his father, and a third person I didn't recognize surrounded me in the car. Mom kept putting her hands on me, saying that she's refusing to hand off the child. I'm sorry, she's saying that she's not refusing to hand off the child. She's just not going to bring him outside, and I'm not allowed inside. This went on for several hours. Called the cops. Again, not my favorite thing to do, but I did it. Cops showed up. Despite trying to stay close to the cops so that I would be left alone and nobody would put their hands on me, my abuser's mom kept coming over to me to say completely cryptic and I don't want to misuse this term, but honestly, like schizo-coded things such as God's gonna get your ass and your baby said he doesn't like you and why aren't you at work right now? Eventually, in the middle of a cop talking to her saying that this was gonna be a bad look in court, she charged into the house screaming, brought out the baby, who was absolutely bawling, screaming, crying, holding him under one arm, and then very literally threw him onto me saying, "Take your fucking baby, take your fucking baby." What a time that was. We made it very clear, not only in front of the judge, who could not care less, shout out to dishonorable Judge James E. Callagher, very possibly spawned from the depths of hell. We also made it very clear in front of these cops, in person, over the phone, and over text with my abuser. Note here, my abuser's mother absolutely refused to not be the person who interacted with me in person, despite all demands and requests of myself and my husband, but nobody was around to do anything about it, and she became besties with that judge, so that's just how that is, I guess. We made it very clear that it was not feasible for us to be traveling between states at that bare minimum. If we were really going to do time sharing, it would have to be a long distance time sharing plan, and that until a hearing happened to have long distance time sharing, my son, Judah, would only be safe staying at home, or at least bare minimum, he has to stay in one location because we physically, feasibly cannot travel back and forth on a weekly basis. When we asked if he would like to make a plan to assist with travel arrangements and boarding, he obviously said no. So then we were stuck in the very intentionally designed trap where we were forced to leave our son in Florida until we could get a follow-up hearing. We confirmed all of the reasons why this was the case over phone and over text. We agreed that that was what had to happen. And then as soon as we were on our way to the airport, we did confirm this over the phone with my abuser one more time to see if there was any way of making different arrangements, but he was very dead set on calling the cops if I did not show up for time sharing every week. Even though, as he made it overtly clear, he did not want the child outside of his visitation hours because, in his own words, he was not able to take care of him. Nobody was home. He didn't know how to take care of a child. He didn't have the money. He doesn't have a job. He said these things. But he was still going to call the cops to have me lose custody entirely if I was not flying back and forth, something I literally could not do. So we confirmed over the phone at the airport, and he said okay. My husband and I didn't know what the fuck else to do, because at this point it's between fighting for our son while leaving him in a dangerous situation with people who don't care for him, or just losing the chance to fight for him altogether. We were in a trap, and this was our best option for him. So we just go. And we're already writing up our motions for an urgent hearing. We're already typing up reports on our way to the airport. And then we get a stream of texts from my abuser saying, pick him up now. It's your turn. It's your time. You have to come get him now. Get him as soon as possible. So we called again to have the same conversation where my abuser pretended to be oblivious to the texts he was sending. It was a trap. It was an obvious trap. This was a terrifying situation, but we didn't know what else to do. We were set up for this, and there was no way out of it, and our son was the primary victim of it. As soon as we get home, as soon as we touch ground, we're getting the same cryptic calls and texts that I've gotten in the past. I'm going to try to wrap this up a little quicker, I'm sorry. We're in a situation where we're back home trying to fight for our son from a distance, and suddenly, while he's not in our immediate vicinity, not in our immediate physical care, we're getting the same pattern of calls, texts, mail, cars in our driveway, and then knocks on the door in the middle of the night, people trying to get into the home in the middle of the night. We were the most scared we'd ever been at this point because we knew Judah was not okay where he was. We're already in a second residence trying to just escape this situation and have both of us live a normal life that is safe and quiet and healthy and happy, and this is happening again. Both of us are getting the calls, the texts from random numbers, including the names of people we love and our places of work, our home address, the kicker that it led up to was not only threatening the safety and life of our friends and family, but Judah, the safety of Judah. And Judah was not immediately around for us to protect. So at this point, we gave in to asking, what the fuck do you really want us to do? After spending quite a few weeks trying to lay low, trying to hide inside, trying to hide with loved ones, hoping that it all blows over, just trying to lay low so that nobody can fucking stalk or kidnap us, it led up to, what if your son just died? And that was very terrifying. At which point, we just fucking gave in. The next several months are, oh boy howdy. We did what we were told to do. We went where we were supposed to go. At some point, we were just getting trafficked. That's what it was. This was a second event of being trafficked. This was the second time for me being trafficked at the hands of my ex, who is just dead set on ruining my life. And this is now happening to my husband, who my ex had just recently found out about. Neither of us are able to take care of our son because we are fucking abducted, just trying to abide by people's orders and threats to keep him alive. We were sometimes, my husband and I don't know what's an appropriate amount of detail to go into here that won't immediately be banned from the internet. We were forced to perform acts on other people. Sometimes we were forced to perform acts on each other. Sometimes we were close to our home city, and sometimes we were in other place. Whenever we were sent outside, we were given one shitty phone that wasn't ours. Everything was very controlled. And I think it was intended for us to look very normal and free when we went outside, but it was bad. And we didn't know what to do other than listen to this way of speaking and this way of threatening us that implied that if we just keep doing what these people wanted, then eventually they're gonna, I don't know, let us go, make enough money, get revenge for somebody. I don't know. Just like at some point they'll be done with us and we can return to our life. That was kind of the hope, because what the fuck else are we supposed to hope for in that moment? But that hope ran out when my dear husband was forced to get an almost identical tattoo in the same place by these people where I had previously gotten that tattoo the last time I was abducted at the hands of my ex. It's bad. We have fucking tattle marks on our neck, essentially, from this situation. I think it felt like 6 months that we were in that before we were able to get out. Whew! Second we got out, we fucking, give me a second. Man! I'm gonna try to just bulldoze through this. We were freed, we were linked up with essentially a resource center, a safety center, a rescue organization of sorts for survivors of both domestic violence, but primarily in our case, human trafficking. We got all of the tests in the hospital. We were fucked up physically. These people have been doing their best to help us protect our identity, protect our address, protect our safety. We contacted with them as sort of witnesses / guides immediately. CPS, the police in Jacksonville to check on our son, report everything that we possibly could. We tried to get any records or any updates from the court case from the time of our disappearance. We were not able to get access to any of them. We requested documents several times.
None of them were made available to us. Our case manager was able to request these things through extensive efforts. What we were eventually able to find out happened in chronological order was this. We called the cops to do a wellness check on our son for all of the reasons. The cop showed up, said nobody was home, so everything's all good, case closed. Would not do anything further about that. Called CPS, please check on our son, all the reasons. About the same situation. The assigned investigator, the person that the case was assigned to, has not returned any of our calls or voicemails or texts or emails any of the times. And it has been quite a long time. She has had ample time to review those messages and get back to us. One thing that did happen almost immediately after CPS tried to make contact with my abuser, suddenly a final hearing was scheduled. And this was updated on the docket in a way where my case manager had to request it. My case manager, who is very diligently keeping eyes on this at all times for any updates that she could possibly find, that they could possibly find, rather. And the day before the hearing, it was uploaded very literally at, I think, 4:59 p.m. So I could not call anybody about this. It was set for the next morning, and we just found out about it. This will be a final hearing to essentially just give custody to my ex, who did not want my child. So my husband and I, after finding out about this through our case manager, were able to very, very gratefully receive emergency funds to send us both on the immediate next flight, which was about a midnight flight for both of us on different airlines, because those were the last remaining tickets, to get to Jacksonville, Florida in the morning and just barely make it there in time to say, hey, this isn't okay. And we made it to the courthouse with our bags in hand. We made it 11 minutes after the hearing had started. That was the soonest we could get there, but while the hearing was still happening, somebody notified the judge that we were there and requesting entry to the hearing that has everything to do with us. He denied us entry because we were late, but was so gracious to let us in afterwards to just let us know that he had come up with a final order. And we really had to pry to get the information from him, or to get any information from him. So an important fun fact about this is that by this point, the case has now been assigned to dishonorable Judge L.E. Hutton, that's Hutton, of the Duval County 4th Judicial Circuit Court, fucking Duval County Courthouse, Jacksonville, Florida. Shout out to that guy. He reports that he was assigned to our case in the beginning of January 2024, which is weirdly the same time that we were officially being trafficked. That's when that had started. So I find that very interesting. I also find it very interesting how he has been handling all of this information, which is that he has not been handling this information. If you thought it was just corrupt and toxic and a failing of the judicial system before, where my ex has attorneys, I don't have an attorney, so I'm not seen as credible and it's biased and that's really terrible for the child, it is now insanely illegal and insanely harmful to my son, to myself, to my husband, to our family, to our community, to everybody. I could sit here for a very, very, very long time, and I will, if it is requested of me, to go through every exchange that has happened in the past several months of trying to move things forward in this case. And I am evidently terrible at making things concise, but if I had to bullet point it for you, this is just the nightmare scenario. This is a hellscape
nightmare. That hearing had happened after my husband and I resurfaced to the world, I guess, in spring, April/May of 2024. The day I am recording and uploading this, I believe it is December 22nd, Sunday in 2024. That is 7 or 8 months, I believe. No progress has been made at all. I'm saying we, it is myself on paper. I have been fighting for my life as a now self-represented party. I am a pro se litigant. I have been submitting and filing tons of evidence, hundreds and hundreds of pages of police reports, screenshots, photos, timelines, anything I can get. I have submitted evidence that my abuser has lied several times under oath throughout this case. I filed motions to rehear things, to just have an update on anything, to make sure there are safety precautions in line for my son. Just anything I have submitted, anything I have filed has gone ignored. It's gone ignored. I don't mean that to say that they have been formally dismissed by a judge. I mean they have very truthfully gone ignored, unacknowledged. A lot of them suddenly do not show up on the docket. It's as though I'm being completely dormant in this case. The only movement that I have been able to make happen in the past several months has been a hearing about whether or not we should schedule a conference, about whether or not we should schedule another hearing, about whether or not to schedule a following hearing to respond to my motion to rehear the final order that I, by the way, to this date, have not seen, despite my many requests. But according to the vague verbal information I've been able to get from this judge in these hearings as a party in the case, it has something to do with me not being my son's mother anymore. In these hearings, when I ask for any updates about what has happened during my disappearance, I do not get them. I'm told to request documents because I should have the right to them, except for the fact that I keep not getting the documents when I ask if they could be perhaps emailed to me by a judicial secretary or even the other party's attorney. The answer is, well, no, you should just be able to get them online. Then correct, I should. Anytime I have tried to even mention the long compilation of evidence that I've submitted, I am told that I am not allowed to talk about that and that it is not to be acknowledged as even existing until the next hearing. That's been said every single time. Who knows why, and who knows why we haven't been able to discuss it yet. What I have been told is the following, that nothing will move forward until I update my ex directly, personally, with my updated secondary residence. At first, they asked me to update my address. I told them that my primary address that I had filed was still relevant. Then they asked me to update with a second mailing address. So I did with my P.O. box that I am able to be served at. During the following hearing, my ex's attorney brought up that she had Googled the address and it was not a home address and that is a problem. And so that we need to know my secondary residence. Now, I have said this in writing, I've submitted this to the court, and I've said it every time in a hearing that should the court or even a social investigator, should anybody who legally has the right to it or legally needs it, require the address for my secondary residence, the place that I'm hiding from my abuser from, should they need it, I am more than happy to file that confidentially. I have submitted a form to file that confidentially. For some reason, that's gone completely ignored. We haven't acknowledged that I've even filed that. Either way, that has been deemed by this judge completely unacceptable because my ex, in particular, needs to have it. Now, when I asked what is the reason for this, is there time sharing involved? Is he going to stop by the house for any reason? I was told no, you don't have any time with him. You're not a legal parent right now, which was news to me. This was the first time I was hearing it, was in this answer. So my ex has legally no reason to know where I live. However, if I do not give him my address, we will not move forward with anything else in the case. That is the order that I have. When I asked, will you be writing this in a final order? He said no. When I requested this judge to write that in a final order so that I know how to thoroughly go through with that and address it legally, he said no. I have also, every time in one of these meetings, requested transcripts or recordings of the hearing, just relevant documentation to the hearings in the case in which I am a party. I have been denied every single time. At some point, I requested an ombudsman, to which this judge said, I don't know what that is, and then immediately followed that up with, that doesn't exist. It does. It very much does. When asked about the legitimacy or how we would address that on paper moving forward if I were required to give my ex my address, this judge said that he does not need to write it in a formal order because he's telling me now in person. It was actually over Zoom, but he's telling me to my face, so he doesn't need to write it in a formal order. Any questions I had about transcripts or formal records of this or further instructions clarified perhaps over email even, all denied. We will not put this in writing. You just gotta give them your home address. That's what's happening right now. That's ultimately where we are right now. The other thing that we'll put on paper to make it look like this is anything that makes any sense is the order for me to have a psych eval. Now, this has been required of me several times from the many, many times that my ex has called CPS anonymously or even under different names to say that I am an unmanaged psychiatric hospital breakout, bipolar, schizophrenic, suicidal, been arrested many a time for violence, alcoholic, drug addict, drug dealer, prostitute, just everything that I could possibly be that may be concerning on paper. So every single time they have gone through the process, I have gotten another psych eval. I turn out to be pretty okay, pretty fine, of sound mind, normal affect, etc., etc. There's a number of these on file. I've also been seeing a psychologist for a couple of years now, sans the amount of months that I went missing, who is able to do a psych eval. They are a psychologist. That is a thing that they have the license to do. However, my previous psych evals that I had to get with CPS were considered not valid to submit because they were not done in a timely manner. When I asked what an expiration date would be or what a timely manner is, this judge said, I make up the timely manner. I make up what a good date is. So, okay, I have a psychologist. Perhaps he can do a release of information of my diagnostic / lack of diagnostic report, and he can conduct this psych eval. And he said, no. At this point, my abuser's attorney was more than ready to come up with a list of names that were acceptable to do my psych eval because she knows these people. That couldn't fly because I live in Washington State, and it needs to be done in Washington State. Now, it was decided that I need to get this on October 2nd, 2024. That's when the last hearing was. So I've gotten it done since then. It's done, it's on paper, it's ready to be released to whoever wants it, confidentially. I would prefer my ex to not know where my doctor is and what general location I frequent. But I have not been able to give this to anybody appropriately. I've asked over email many a time, but boy howdy, did the judicial secretaries, the other party's attorney, anybody involved, they just don't know what's happening to my emails. Sometimes they get them and sometimes they don't. A formal order from that hearing has not been released yet. It hasn't been served to me. I have submitted my own, I believe it's called a proposed order. I've submitted a proposed order that they're saying they can't open. I sent it in a doc and a docx and a PDF file. I sent it to everybody. I sent it from multiple email addresses because they said my email address is broken and bad and nobody can get anything from it. That's not true. They're responding to all of my emails. Not all, but they're responding to my emails. They are receiving it. There is nothing wrong with my email domain. So I sent it over mail and just nobody can figure out how to do it. I'm looking at the files right now. I have my eyes on this PDF file. It works just fine. It is a normal PDF file, but nobody knows how to use a computer or be normal. This is obviously all a trap. They are fucking with me. They are dragging things on as long as possible. This is nothing to do with protecting a child. This is everything to do with removing a child from his mother, from his acting father, from his genuine father, from his community, from his home, from his healthy lifestyle. And this is able to happen because I'm poor. Like, that's what it is. I wouldn't consider myself, the most underprivileged person, but I don't have the extra tens of thousands of dollars to put down for an attorney. He does, or rather his parents do, and they're in fucking tight donating to this judge's, this courthouse's cause, whatever. So this is just able to happen, and my son is the primary victim of this all. I would like to add here that I believe it was the most recent hearing, which is not recent enough. I asked so many questions about the state of my son. I requested that somebody check up on him, that a social investigator check on him, how was he doing, and there was a social investigator who was weirdly appointed by my ex's attorney. No alternatives were considered from my end, and according to her report, she showed up for less than 15 minutes and didn't lay eyes on my son, but heard him watching TV in the other room, so she assumes he's good because my ex says that he's totally fine and that I'm crazy and unstable, so that must be true. Weirdly, just was not able to reach out to me. Just couldn't do it. Just wasn't able to make contact with me. And she does list 4 sources on her report here, and I would like to read these 4 sources to you. So my ex's name is Angel Oscar Mendoza Martinez. Now, her 4 sources here are: number 1, Angel Mendoza; number 2, Angel Mendoza Martinez; number 3, Odelvis Mendoza, which is a butchering of, that is the wrong name for my ex's mother's name, which is, I'm going to pronounce it terribly, but Odelvis Caridad Osorio Martinez. I'm sorry, Martinez Osorio. That's not how you say that Spanish name, but that's what it is. That's not what's written on the report here. And the 4th source is one photograph of a text that I sent my ex when explaining that I can't be traveling back and forth every week. Not in context, just the one singular text message. So again, the sources for this report are my ex kind of again, my ex's mommy, and one text message, and not reaching out to me. So she really did this thoroughly, and she will remind you that she has been doing this for 20 years. The title has a lot of misspellings in it. She got several people's names wrong, as well as their roles. Like, I don't know the word here. Like family names, relatives, like maternal, cousin. You know what I'm trying to say? She's getting words wrong. She got people's ages wrong by several years, It's just, there's a lot of blatantly incorrect information here. It is done so unprofessionally, but it doesn't need to be because this whole thing is a fucking joke. So nobody laid eyes on my child, but I guess he was watching TV, so he's okay. Worth noting, very worth noting, that during the first 2 of 3 conferences that I was able to have, or hearings rather, that I was able to have with, since I came back in April, they refused to answer any of my questions about what had been decided upon during my disappearance, but continued to, refer to my son as my son, Judah Keys, that's his last name, and the social investigator who was present for the most recent hearing kept calling him Oliver, and I said, hey, what is that about? And she said, oh, there was an order back in March. His name's Oliver now. You weren't here for that? And this is very interesting to me for a number of reasons. That sucks. That fucking sucks. It sucks that they made that decision without notifying me. It sucks that they did not update this to me, and they very intentionally were withholding this information from me for unknown reasons. But what I find concerning, aside from the fact that this new judge, Ellie Hutton, was assigned during the time when me and my husband were getting ass fucked, presumably for somebody else's money against our will and at the threat of our son's safety, is that when my husband and I effectively went missing, our family, friends, loved ones were understandably very concerned for our safety. They made missing persons reports. There have been active searches for us. There has been an open case looking for both of us for many months. I mean, it's closed now. When we came back, we were able to make contact with the assigned investigator, the assigned detective, and have that closed. But it was open, and we have these reports that I very much did submit to this court. These reports that contacted my ex, even attempted to contact my ex's attorney to get any information about me from them, showed up at my ex's house, talked to him, talked to my ex's parents, made it very clear that we were missing. This was clearly against our will. We had plans to be in, we had plans, we had a life, and we suddenly disappeared from our home and from our family, and it was very concerning. Everybody was very aware that I was unable to participate in this case clearly against my will, and they continued, as soon as really this judge was assigned, to just make judgment calls, such as, I don't get to see my son until I get a psych eval and give my ex my address, and his name's Oliver now, and any requests that I have for checking in on his safety, making sure that he's keeping up to date with his necessary regular medical care, we're just not gonna do that. We're just not gonna do that. And that's not neglect. What is neglect and abuse and abandonment is the fact that I, according to them, allegedly just showed up and just dropped him off in the yard and then disappeared. Because that's what me and my husband did according to these people. So, where are we right now? Hell. Depths of hell. Evidently. I've been talking for 100 years. Believe it or not, this is the concise, short, not detailed version to the best of my ability. I could be here for 6 hours with a presentation of a step-by-step for you. This short version, this quote-unquote short version, is just where we're at right now. This whole thing seems like my efforts to protect my son have been very fruitless. Myself, my son, my spouse, our family, our lives have been uprooted. Our safety has been threatened. I am currently pregnant. I went through a miscarriage while this was going on, and that was tragic. I'm pregnant again. Congratulations to me. And it is difficult to be excited about a new child while simultaneously being deathly terrified for the well-being of my other child.
And we're in hell. Through all of our studying, all of our efforts, I can't afford a lawyer right now, but we have been getting legal advice about how to go about filing things and just dealing with this whole situation, and it does feel like we've been making all of the right moves to protect ourselves and to just go back to living our life and to make sure that somebody is there to vouch for our son and just nothing is going our way because nobody has eyes on this case. It's a terribly, terribly unethical and illegal thing. I will say that with full confidence. But what are we going to do about it if there's nobody on my side to say anything about it, and there's no records, and there's no transcript, and nothing that I'm saying or filing is publicly accessible, so nobody can get in trouble, right? By the way, for context, since this is all publicly findable, not anything that I have submitted, but since the case itself is a public case or is publicly findable, it is evidently okay to publish these sorts of testimonies with people's names, especially when it's the first thing that you find when you Google these names. I have been prioritizing anonymity and privacy on the internet for the entirety of my career on here. This isn't a career, but my lifespan on the internet, and that is because of the stalking. Evidently, trying to live discreetly and privately hasn't been effective in the way that I wanted it to over the past several years because my abuser just keeps on finding ways to get to me. So instead, I will go in the complete opposite direction and be very public about my information, just so that if I go missing again, you know who to report missing, and you know who to say probably did it. My name is just completely override my usual prioritization of online anonymity here to say that my name is Amade Maria Keys. It's McKee, but on paper it's anglicized to Keys. And I'm going to say a lot of names wrong here, but it's okay because it is all written in the description. And again, my privacy is evidently just impossible to maintain because I had several years prior legally changed my name. Emphasis on legally. I didn't run away from anything. I did this very legally to escape this type of abuse and to try to prioritize my anonymity publicly and on the internet and everywhere else. But alas, now when you Google my name, I am the first thing that shows up, as well as all of the other information, except for anything that I've said, that is available in this case. So, hi, I'm Amade Maria Keys. My abuser's name is Angel Oscar Mendoza Martinez, December 29, 1999. So if I go missing again, please, by all means, know that it was directly because of this person, and maybe take action to help me out. If you find that it wasn't technically physically directly at the hands of that person, which it probably was, try looking to Odelvis Caridad Osorio Martinez or Angel Mendoza B. Lavin. Those are his parents with whom he lives, who have been very passionately active in the journey to reunite me with the abusers of my past. The abusers who I changed my whole name to hide from because of the severe threat they pose to me and my children and anybody else I hold dear to me. So they have been incredibly active in trying to get my home address and just give it to people. For years now, they will stop at nothing. False reports, stalking, legally kidnapping a child, abducting the husband, harassing the community members. They will stop at nothing to cause harm to myself, my husband, my children, and the rest of my family and loved ones. Even with everything that's happened to myself and my husband in the past year, the primary victim right now is my son, Judah. Apparently, his name now is legally Oliver Mendoza, but that's fucking crazy because his name is Judah Santino Keys. He's stuck in a place where he is not getting the health care he needs. He does not know why Mama and Daddy and everybody else disappeared overnight. He isn't getting to reach out to his community members, and we are allowed no contact with him. He doesn't have any love or extensive care, and it needs to end. I absolutely, when I dropped him off for even the first attempt of
4 hours of time sharing, I made a very extensive Judah handbook about all of his needs and preferences, emergency contact information, and of course none of that has been used or acknowledged. So again, you have my name if I go missing. You know who to look to if I do. Of course, legally, you should contact police to search for me to do a thorough investigation. I'm just telling you who probably did it. Weirdly enough, most of my submitted documents still don't appear when I look at it online. I'm refreshing it even after all of the extensive communication that I've had over email over the past several months, but it's just a bunch of stuff that I wrote. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put a link to a mega compilation of what I find to be a lot of the most dire information in PDF format in a link below, because it all came from my brain. So I'm allowed to share it. Because it's all information that I compiled on my own, the mega document is a bit disorganized. But it's fine. The information is in there. So sorry, I forgot some shout outs here. We're going to give some shout outs to my ex's team of attorneys. That is Priscilla Giustiano, Miss PJ. That is an attorney of Parra Harris Law in Jacksonville, Florida, as well as, gotta say these names wrong, Mercedes Blazon Aguilera. Again, these are all written down there. She used to be representing Parra Harris Law, but very recently she changed to her own private practice right after that most recent hearing. Another shout out to Miss Patricia Parker. I believe that is Parker Law. Again, I'll put all of that information in the description just to give shout outs to these people who are working on this public case and are making all of these really, really cool decisions that are directly affecting my now 3-year-old son. Isn't that great? My husband and I have worked tirelessly to not only recover from the past consequences and the trauma and the real tangible damage that my abuser, Angel Oscar Mendoza Martinez, had inflicted on me, and more importantly, Judah, for a significant enough portion of his life where he directly threatened his safety and his life. We have a community. We built a community. We got the resources we needed. We both work. We had a home. We've been trying for a minute to have another child, to give Judah a little sibling. Oh my goodness. I don't want child support. I don't want revenge. I have tried many times to handle this situation quietly and just get this guy to leave me alone and leave me and my family in peace, to work our little jobs and to go to our little play groups and to live our life. And it has been so disallowed. There has been endless threats to our well-being, to our safety, to our lives. Not only myself and my husband, and at this point, because it's a threat to my life, our unborn child, also Judah has received the most pain and confusion and fear from this whole process. Even in the few minutes that he's, that I've seen Judah and these people, my ex, his mom, in the same room, they were essentially just upsetting him and tormenting him on purpose in the few seconds that we were all in the same space together, just to, I guess, vex me. But Judah is the one getting hurt here. The reason this is allowed to happen is because we just don't have the attorney. I've tried reaching out to the legal aid in Jacksonville. I've tried reaching out to almost every pro bono and low bono lawyer that I can find. However, my ex, for some reason, who can imagine why, has reached out to every single one of them. There's a conflict of interest in every single affordable lawyer that I could possibly find, even though he has had a team of lawyers that start at what, $20,000 retainer fee. He doesn't need the pro bono attorney. He doesn't need the representation. He just wanted to make sure I couldn't get further representation. This whole thing has been whack, and the good lawyers are a little expensive. We're in a trap right now where our son has been fucking kidnapped. On paper, it's legal, but it's absolutely not. It's harmful to him. It's endangering to us. And I guess we're just too broke to do anything about it. I don't know what to do at this point besides reach out and make it public. My husband, my dear sweet husband, started a fundraiser online. You can send a link to that, but hey, because my name is already out there at this point, if you want to be kind, you can go to my Ko-Fi, or even better, just send money to my PayPal at Amity Keys, which will also be linked below because privacy is a thing of the past right now. If you felt like being generous, you could do that. I think that reaching out and spreading the word might be helpful. I really don't know. We're trying to survive this. My son is an active victim of this, and we're already doing everything that we can, but this is a major flaw in the system where this is allowed to happen. On paper, it's not allowed to happen, but it's allowed to happen. And this isn't terribly uncommon. This is just something that happens when you're poor. Babies are getting ripped from their mothers every day. People are allowed to exploit litigation and law enforcement to just stalk and harass. It doesn't matter if you have a video of your ex physically beating you, as long as he didn't consent to that video in a two-party consent state, that's not submissible evidence and you don't deserve a restraining order. This is broken, and this is bad, and this is wrong, and this is what's happening. If the best fucking thing I can do right now, while I continuously work harder for other options, if the best I can do in this exact moment is shed a little light on how fucking insane and bad this is, then, here's an hour of just the tip of the iceberg of how crazy and insane and just evil, like that is a dramatic word to use, but I think it's completely appropriate. This is what can happen. This is what is happening. This is real. And if you're poor or if you don't know the right people, then fuck you, fuck your kid. That's how this works. I really don't know how to wrap this up, but do what you will with this information. I will put links in the description. If you have questions, you can DM me, you can comment. I'm back on Instagram, I'm back on TikTok. I guess shed a spotlight on the fact that this can happen. If you want to be generous, that's great. I'm talking in circles because I don't know how to wrap this up, but that is the explanation that I feel I owe the people who have supported me, and it's also just worth getting out there. So, there's no good way to close this off. So I'm just gonna go and keep trying to unfuck the situation so that I can see my son be in a safe place and heal from the trauma. Go back to our happy, healthy, quiet little lives. Because that's not what it is right now. Okay. Anyway, I guess I'm back. So fucking thanks for being here. If I'm a little bit inconsistent in the near future with posting, this is fucking why. And yeah, very awkwardly, thank you for the support and the concern that you've showed. I might
And I might follow this up here with a couple of clips of my son, partially because up to this point I've been very private about our lives, and now that that's not a thing, I would like to take the chance to show off my very adorable baby. And partially because I would like you to see a little glimpse into the life that we had that was very simple, and he was doing phenomenal for as autistic as he is. He was doing great, and he's freakishly big and strong and just the biggest sweetheart who doesn't understand anything that's happening and doesn't deserve this. But things were okay, and I would like them to be okay again, and here's some of that. Okay, bye. Need a hug? Okay. Six. 7. 8. Yay! Crash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yay! Woo! Yeah! Are you waiting so patiently for dinner? Yeah, it's almost done. What do you have? It's a cookie. Cookie.
Thank you. Please. Thank you. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Please. Please. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please? Thank you.
Please?
Please? Thank you.
Please?
There you go. Please? Please? Thank you. Okay. My gosh. Judah. What is something you would recognize? This?
purple, brown, white. You won't even say brown. You know you're half brown, right? Brown. B. B. Black.
Morado.
Cute.
What color? We've established
Color.
we've established.
Color. Orange.
You for sure not saying this one.
Orange. Naranja.
White.
Sure. Huh?
Duck.
What color?
B. B.
B.
E.
Eat. You think it's eat?
Dad.
Okay.
A.
Okay.
Name.
N.
Name.
N.
D.
D. Yay. Yeah, I just told him to put them in rainbow order. He got so close. What?
Push.
Yum. Thank you, I made it myself. Oh, you fucking. Just right back to it? Oh, yeah.
Do you feel safe? Okay. That is one way to do it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. R, S, T. X, and Z. Yay! Say what you just said again. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve.
Yes.
Yes!
Yes.
100% success rate. Agility. You did it! You did it! High five. Woo!
swing? Slide? Thinking about it? Swing's over there, yeah. You wanna go to the swing next? Next?
Hi. Hey, Judah.
No.
Uno,
Dos.
dos,
Tres.
tres,
Oh.
cuatro,
Cinco.
cinco,
Seis.
seis,
Yo.
siete,
Cinco.
siete,
Ocho.
ocho,
Nueve.
mm,
Nueve.
mm,
Nueve.
9,
Yes.
10. ¡Uh! Otra vez.
Tres.
1,
Dos.
2,
Tres.
3,
Cuatro.
4,
Cinco.
5. One, 2, 3. Over. Over the bear. And stop of the bear. Yay. Judah! Hello. What's up? Again.
According now to your mouth. According now to your house. According now to your mouth. According now to your mouth. Yes.
Yes. Nod your head yes.
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 A kiss. A kiss.
Go, go, go.
Go, 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 go.
3. Thank you.
Cleaning and not making a mess at all.
tree comes to you. More. More. More tree. 2 leaves. Yay. 2 green leaves. More. You see how they look?
Hey. Hey. Yeah. What's up? Uh-huh.
Hi. Dang. You're reading them. You're reading them correctly and you're doing it upside down. 7. 4. What number? 4. 5. You have a hard time with F's. 10. 9. 8. 4. 3. 4. 4. 6. 9. 10. You're doing it! Do you see any cavities?